I am Rebecca Lynn Pope. I am a life and love coach. I am the host of a new show on OWN called Marry Me Now. I am a spiritual life coach, a business coach, author, speaker. I train life coaches for a living. I've been in the relationship expert industry for over a decade. Well, I think the whole concept of relationship goals is very tricky to begin with. I think that people love to see images of Black couples and Black love and then want to call it relationship goals. Would I say that Martin and Gina, for me, I don't see it as relationship goals because I don't relate to the dynamics of the relationship. I think there are so many variables as individuals for single people that trying to place stereotypical gender roles or labels on other people's relationships is very difficult and very dangerous because it creates expectations. It creates a set expectation of behaviors or roles and responsibilities that may or may not fit you or your potential partner. So when it comes to Martin and Gina, I think that at the end of the day, I think you have a TV show that created characters that they played on a show. Does that mean that that's realistic for real life? Not to me, no. I think that a sense of humor is huge. Life is hard. Life is messy, and I don't care who you are. Life is not easy for anybody. And relationships are not easy. Marriage is not easy. You're going through the ups and downs of life now with another person, but you're not only dealing with your own issues and ups and downs, you're also taking on the ups and downs of your significant other, which is a lot of responsibility. And if you don't have a sense of humor, if you don't have a way to be able to laugh your way and get through some really difficult places in life and to lighten up and be a little bit easygoing, I think it's going to be really difficult to have long-term healthy relationships without a sense of humor. I dated a guy when I was single. I'd been divorced. I was married for like 10 years and got divorced. And I dated a guy who was really funny. Like, we had known each other in high school. We reconnected when we were both divorced later in our 30s. And he was like professional comedian level funny. And I swear to God, that relationship lasted so much longer than it would have ever lasted if he was not funny, because I couldn't stay mad at him. It's like every time I would get mad, he would make me laugh. And how do you stay mad and laugh at the same time? It's like faith and fear, how it can't exist in the same space. You can't be angry and laughing at the same time. And I realized that laughter and humor for me was a really important aspect in a partner and in friendship and partnership and relationships. I need somebody that helps to bring that lightheartedness, fun out of life. I'm working so hard, running businesses. It's like in downtime, I needed to have some laughs and be able to have a good time. And so I think laughter and humor is a huge part of a healthy relationship. I think men would look at him and think of him as more alpha male because he was always trying to position himself in posture as the man. I'm the man, like kind of like how he would do his chest, like real, man kind of thing. I think women wouldn't see him necessarily as alpha male from the show because women tend to think that vulnerability or indecisiveness or struggle, they tend to think that strong men do not go through the same range of emotions as women do or as men they consider to be beta or whatever. They tend to think of strong men as almost being like a Superman type of figure subconsciously. I don't think that women would admit that just in talking, but when I really listen and talk to women tend to think that men are supposed to be these very strong, kind of like armored up type of guys, you know, that don't show emotions, that are not sensitive, that, you know, how Martin would be behind the scenes with Gina and he's breaking down, you know, if she's getting ready to leave him or she's mad or, you know, walking away from him. He's like, no, Gina, you know, like acting crazy. I think that women probably wouldn't necessarily say he was alpha male. Black men are not doing well in general. There is a lot of research that is showing an overall decline in not just Black men, all men. So I'm not even going to single out my brothers. It's all men. There is something going on in the last 20 years that is causing testosterone levels in men to decline. A young man who's 18 right now has overall less testosterone than an 18-year-old 20 years ago. Something's happening. We have more men living at home with their parents right now than at ever any time in history. Men are experiencing an overall lack of ambition. And the research gives lots of different reasons and variables for why this is happening, between porn and feeling in competition with women and kind of almost like giving up. I think that on the flip side of that coin, you have Black women in general. Research shows getting degrees at higher rates, getting graduate degrees and doctorates at higher rates, starting businesses that run circles. The rates at which Black women are starting businesses and moving into upper level executive positions and roles is gone up, just literally running circles around men. Black women are starting businesses at a higher rate than white men. And what this is causing, this is why we have such a huge relationship revolution going on right now. This is why relationships are so hard, because women have never at any time in history been this independent financially, right? And it's the big one's finances. Women didn't have all these rights. Women didn't make all this money. Women didn't have power. Women didn't have titles. So women were mostly mothers and wives, and that was the goals that women had in the previous generations. Women would go off to work, but what were women doing, you know, in the 60s and 70s was they started going to work. Secretaries, right? Administrative jobs. All of that has changed. So we are in the middle of this huge relationship revolution. I think that women like Gina in 2022 are the woman that men consider to be difficult. They consider her to be competitive. They consider her to be bitchy, even. The stereotype of that type of woman in 2022 as a Black woman. And more so what I see is that the opportunities for Black women and success and financial success, professional success, the doors are much more wide open for Black women than they are for Black men. So Black women are out here, and research also shows that women tend to want to date and marry on their same level, if not higher, of educational level and financial level. So if a woman has a bachelor's degree, she wants to marry a man who also has a bachelor's degree. If a woman has a master's, doctorate, she's looking for a man comparable financially and educationally on the same levels. That becomes very complicated in 2022 when women have become so ambitious and are getting those degrees at such high rates and Black men are not. So would Gina be considered, would it be difficult for her to date in 2022? Yeah, because who's she gonna date? Where are all these men that would be on her level and meeting the expectations she has financially and professionally to match her? And men would maybe want her because she's pretty, she's sexy, right, physically, but then feel intimidated. No matter what a man has going on. Women ask me this question all the time, Rebecca. I'll get these in my emails. Rebecca, I believe in him. I love him, but he feels like he's not ready. He feels like he's not on my level. He's working on some things, but he doesn't make the same amount of money I make. But I'm down for him and I want to do this with him, but he just won't do it. And it's ego and it's pride as a man. That's a very difficult situation for most Black men. They don't want to be in a situation where the woman is doing better than they are, because what it means to be a man traditionally is to say provider, protector, which means breadwinner, which means I'm the leader and I need to be doing better than you and be able to hold this down for me, our potential family, whatever. So the dynamics have become very, very complicated. Professional Black women, successful Black women who are successful in every single area of their life because they can control every other part of their life. They are in control of how much education they get so that they can get good jobs. They're in control of starting companies. They're in control of, friendships. But when it comes to a man, they're not in control of when or how they can meet this viable prospect that they want to build a life with. And so every other area they're excelling, but like Rebecca, why am I struggling with this? What's wrong with me? So this is what happens a lot with successful Black women in 2000s. It's like, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I struggling with relationships? And truth be told, there may not really be hardly anything wrong with you. It's that how at certain ages, what is the pool of Black men that fall into your category of what you're looking for? And what women don't understand is that because social media projects an image of all of these successful people and wealthy, beautiful people, men and women, like you look and it's like, oh, it's the gorgeous guy with his six pack and, you just keep going and going and it's all you see, right? It's just all this success and all these, beautiful, handsome, wonderful people that feel like options. It feels like we've got all these options. Those people aren't an option to you. They don't want you. Everybody wants them. They're the hot commodity. They have their pick of whoever they want. So now as a professional Black woman says, well, I want a man who also makes six figures like me. And I want him to be attractive. I don't want him to be ugly, Rebecca, right? I want him to, have my level of education. I want him to, make money like me. I want him to be driven. I want him to be goal-oriented. But by the way, I also want him to be loyal and faithful. And I want him to be potentially a good father and a good husband. And I want him to be honest. And I want him to be also sensitive. And I want him to love God. And where are all these men at? Do you know who a lot of Black men? 5'10", 6 foot and taller, making six figures, handsome, who ain't a dog or a player, or if he is single, especially in your 30s and 40s, you get out of your 20s, they're snatched up, they're married. The good ones that are going to be good husbands and fathers are already settled down. Because you didn't get with them in their 20s when they were ready, because the good guys want to settle down. They don't want to be in the streets. They don't want to be chasing women. So they settle down early on. The only way you get one of them is if they're coming out of a divorce. So a lot of this pool of single men who are perpetually single, always a bachelor, ain't never been married in your 30s and 40s, and you gorgeous and you got money, 6'6", 6 pack, 6 figures, 6 foot, you probably the devil. I'm not sure that the average man has the emotional intelligence to navigate that type of a situation, especially publicly, right? When I began to really understand the nature of men, and especially Black men, right, the pressure they are under to appear as if they're the man and they have it all together and they're strong and they are respected and they are, there is a lot of pressure that you guys are under constantly as a man. But then there's a lack of role models of what being a strong Black man, husband, father, even just a man in a relationship. There's a huge void and a gap there where that has not been role modeled or examples of that in real life. So men don't even know what that really looks like, except for caricatures, right? Stereotypes from television and social media and pop culture, which is always over the top and extra, right? Without balance, not healthy, right? And so there's this huge void. And I think that men struggle to communicate. Men struggle to voice their feelings and their emotions. I think that expecting a man to come into a situation and apologize publicly for something he's done is something he did publicly is a big ask. He's already so sensitive. The reason he even did that publicly was because of the sensitivity and the pride, that he's trying to build and receive respect as a man publicly. So to come out and apologize publicly, it goes directly against the reason he did what he did to begin with, right? I think that it's this tap dance that men and women are currently doing in modern relationships, where women are constantly trying to be respectful in their relationships and build their man up, trying to understand how to navigate conversations where things need to be addressed without tearing him down or emasculating him. It's difficult. It's just, there's no way around it. It's difficult. I don't think that you can expect a public apology, but 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get one. Well, I don't believe that men and women can be friends. Obviously, that's coming from me. I've heard women say, well, Rebecca, I got friends. I got, guy friends. We ain't never done nothing. We really just cool. Back again to the scale of attractability, right? If you are a very attractive person, man or woman, 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time, the people you've put in the friend category are only there because you've put them there, or that's the space they're allowed to be in. If you are an attractive, charismatic man, the friend girls that you've put in this friend category or friend zone, 9 times out of 10 have a crush on you and want to be with you and would jump at any opportunity to be with you. You just don't know that because they're not on your radar like that. 9 times out of 10, men have slept with their friend girls. On that one night, they both drank too much and were just kicking it when they were chilling. And then they try to pass those women off as just friends when they get in a relationship. And then when the girlfriend is picking up on vibes from that female saying, wait a minute, why ain't she cool with me? Why, what do I pick up here? She like you. And then he's like, no, babe, that's my best friend. Look, women and men pick up on all the stuff that you might be ignoring or acting like you're naive or ignorant about. Vice versa. If you're an attractive woman, when I was dating, this is the position I took. I realized, don't no man want to be my friend unless he gay. Friend definition being, you don't sleep with your friends. You don't want to kiss your friends or sleep with your friends. You ain't trying to screw your friends, right? So a man being around me, the only way he's a friend is because I put him in the friend zone. But at any given opportunity, he would still sleep with me if I allowed it. That's not a friend. That's a man who's waiting for his chance. Dated a man one time and first met him, went on a few dates, and he's saying all his friends are female. He had no male friends. All his friends are female. I was like, what? What's that all about? Started going on a couple more dates with him, getting to know. He really got into me, wanted to be exclusive. And he started telling some of his friend girls about me, and all hell broke loose in his life. All them friend girls that he thought were just friends and homegirls started tripping when they found out about me. And I told him, I said, they're only your friends because that's all you will allow them to be. They want you. They got crushes on you, have had crushes on you for years. So I believe that you can have friends because you put those boundaries in place. But I believe the true intentions behind, would they really want to? So real talk, here's what it boils down to. If you are a really good man or a really good woman and you're attractive, you're more than likely the best woman or the best man that those people know, your friends know. You're the best prospect. You're the best man that woman knows in her life. Of course she's got a crush on you. Of course he's got a crush on you, right? He keeps meeting people and nobody measures up. So these so-called platonic friends, this is where it's also slippery, because when you're in a relationship and now all of a sudden you go through something in your relationship and it's rocky or you're fighting or something happens and you go talk to the friend and all of a sudden you don't realize it, but they don't want you to be with them anyway. So their advice can be just a slightly little bit slanted, that could be encouraging you to break up or breaking up your marriage and you don't even realize it. I had a client one year and he had his wife divorced him. And as soon as they separated, all the ex-wife's friends were hitting on him. And they were the same friends that were in her ear trying to get her to divorce him and saying he was no good. So ladies, fellas, when it comes to these friends, I think you have to be very careful. You can be rowing your little boat and your friends are drilling holes in your boat and you don't even realize it. And then, okay, so here's the other real side from matchmaking. The girls or guys who get friend zoned tend to be the less attractive people. Physically. So now you're over there crushing on your homeboy, your homegirl, but I even had a client one year who was the homegirl and she wanted to get matched. She's trying to date. So one of the things I did in matchmaking, we would always ask for pictures of your exes, who you've been dating, just to get an idea of your type. What do you like? Interviewing about personality types, all of that. And they would send over these pictures and these kind of descriptions of the person's personality and all of that. And let's just say client is like a 6. I'm talking about without us doing a makeover and a photo shoot, she's gonna walk down the street, she's not turning no heads, right? Just walking down the street. She's just normal, average woman. And then the pictures we get are these fine ass dudes that Boris Kojo's was dating you. Idris Elba was dating you. These are your exes? And it's like, me and the team, my assistant matchmakers and stuff, we looking like, now this don't make no goddamn sense. This is not real. This ain't real. And so what I learned from matchmaking is that people will be in these situationships or they just sleeping with people and it's just these, homegirl, homeboy, friends with benefits situations that's gone on for so long that you refer to this person as an ex because you done spent so much time in this back and forth gray. Then you piss when he marries somebody or she marries someone and you hating because you've been side piece situation chick playing Xbox with them eating wings and now and sexing here and there, and then you get a girlfriend and drop you like a bad habit. And so then literally, the friend zone is full of less attractive people and the friend is super attractive. And then it's just all this kind of craziness going on mentally. With those clients, when you start asking about those pictures and you start, well, how long did you date? Oh, were you guys ever official? Did you meet his family? Did you? Bruh. Friends with benefits. Friend zone. Girl, you were the home girl. This was never your man. He don't know you out here in these streets claiming him as his ex. He never walked down the street holding your hand. He never introduced you to his homeboys. This is my girl, this is my lady. That's a home girl. What people do is when you have been friend zoned, men and women, because in your mind, it's something else going on with this person than just friendship. Because you may have messed around. Because dudes will sleep with anybody. if it's a secret. If it's private and nobody's going to know, they going to get them some. They'll hit. But the woman's over here like, well, I can get this kind of guy. This is the caliber of man I can get because you slept with them. No, apples and oranges. Just because a man will sleep with you doesn't mean he will marry you or date you or officially commit to you or be in a relationship. And vice versa. A woman, you could be a homeboy to an attractive girl and you're there for her and she's sharing and you're her best friend and she's talking to you whenever she's going through things and you there for her and you got this, this entry into her life, this special little place in her life that makes you feel real special, like you got a real bond and connection, but that's not your girl. Then she go get a dude and get a boyfriend and he all in your feelings. But in your mind, because you spend time with these people, this becomes your standard for who you think you should get or who's going to want to be with you. You just haven't met the right person. So psychologically, it screws you up because you're thinking, I can get this caliber of a person to be in a relationship. Now your standards and your ego has you out here looking for something and they don't want you. And I mean, I met people who didn't want me when I was dating. I would meet some guy. I had enough emotional intelligence and self-awareness. I could recognize when someone liked me, like really liked me. You know when someone really likes you. And then I observe myself when I like someone more than they like me. And you're just sitting there like, wait a minute, he's not acting like so-and-so who I know the way he's crazy about me. He ain't acting like that. He ain't into. And because most people don't question their ego. They just assume because they like someone that person's going to like them in return. It's not how it works. Unless there's some paperwork, marriage license. I don't think anybody should be having shared accounts for anything. And if I can't claim you on my taxes, or if I ain't got some benefits if you die, or vice versa, I don't think anybody should be mixing up their money with other people. I don't even think that people dating should go into businesses together. Business partnerships, it's all the same thing. Shoot, business partnerships is like worse than marriage, right? So like relationships are too complicated and emotional. You don't want to mix business with that. And so in essence, mixing up business, money, checking accounts, savings, whatever, that's business stuff. Like at the end of the day, that's your money. I don't even recommend that married couples mix all of their money. I think that you can have your individual accounts. I think marriage is the only relationship status where you should even be considering a joint account. I'll just tell you what my husband and I do. We have individual accounts, but then we own a bunch of businesses. He owns businesses. I own businesses. There's businesses in my name, businesses in his name. Then we have a joint account where it's all of the household bills. We put money in that then is taking care of the house, and we both individually put money into that account. And that's the only joint account there is like a household account. But whatever we're doing to grow our individual streams and individual accounts and all that, that's on us. Everybody is individuals. There's so many variables to this, right? You've got entrepreneurs making a lot of money. You've got, executives and people with incredible jobs making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. Splitting bills has to do with your own personal relationship. It has to do with, so let me just try to make it real, like use a real example. If you've got a woman and she's making $400,000 a year and she falls in love with a man who's making $100,000 a year, is she supposed to go live a lifestyle on a level that he could afford on $100,000 so that he could pay 90% of the bills? Or is her $400,000 lifestyle when she meets him going to already be at a certain level, right? That she's already taken care of herself on a certain level. And if they fall in love and they decide to make their partnership work, they can go on and make a lot more money together. But at the end of the day, should he be expected to pay the $10,000, $20,000 a month overhead of what her lifestyle requires because of her income level? Shoot, $30,000 a month, easy, right? He can't afford that, but she still loves him and she wants to be with him. You come up with whatever works in your partnership for the two of you to say if he's going to pay just the mortgage and you cover everything else, or he's whatever, you just split up the bills for whatever works for your finances, whatever makes sense. I think that people get into such stereotypical gender roles about this ish that it complicates everything. If I'm making $1 million a year and my husband was making $100,000 a year, am I with him for how much money he makes, or am I with him because I love him? Am I with him because of how he makes me feel? Am I with him because of the love and the relationship and the support and the connection and the vibe and the, you just make my life better, right? I make $1 million a year. I don't really care that you're only making $100,000 a year. We can always make more money together. At the end of the day, I ain't gonna be concerned about who's paying the mortgage. I'm concerned about my quality of life and being happy. Does every woman feel that way? No. I'm unique in that perspective. I know that for a fact. When it comes to splitting bills, I would say the average woman is definitely still looking for a man to be the provider. And where that gets tricky, ladies, is you want traditional relationship expectations financially, but in no other way are you a traditional woman. You're a modern woman. You want to be independent. You want to do what you want to do. You don't want to just keep house and have the kids. You don't want to cook every day. You don't want all the other traditional expectations that go along with a man just being a provider. You don't want to live a life just on his level of income. And then, ladies, you're also working. 9 times out of 10 now, 2 income families. Nobody can really live on 1 income anymore. So you're working, but what is it that women want? Do you want to not have to work? I've listened to even very financially successful women who still are holding on to this expectation and wanting the man to be the provider, even if it's just because I want the option. I want him to make more money than me because I don't want to have to work. But yet, as a woman, you're so freaking ambitious and driven and successful. Are you going to ever stop doing what you do? Like really, ever, really, truly stop? You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an entrepreneur, you own these businesses, you make it all. Are you really ever going to want to just stop doing those things? Or is it because you just want to feel as if he's got you? And men and women, I just don't think we live in a time anymore when we can stick to such rigid gender roles because everything has changed. Women have to understand that back when all of this was created, a man could make $40,000 a year and have a stay-at-home wife based on the economy. Go back to the 50s and the 60s, which thousands of years where men have taken care of house and home. Men have provided, right, financially. Women didn't have any money. Think back to what that really meant. It wasn't about lifestyles of the rich and famous. You're talking about just being able to buy a house, live in the suburbs, be a stay-at-home mom if you want to, and your husband can afford to pay for all of the bills because the overhead's only $3,000 a month, right? Fast forward to modern relationships. Now, when you look at the expectation that people have of certain lifestyles, you realize a man would have to be making $300,000 a year by himself to provide the lifestyle that modern women have and expectations of even just being taken care of if they're not going to work. He'd have to be making that on his own. Like by the time you drill down and look at, say, what is the actual net income after taxes and all of that? I mean, who's making that? That's like 2% of the population. I think it's like 4% of the population makes over $400,000 a year. We have to sometimes remember that the average income in America is like $23,000 a year when you don't have a bachelor's degree. The average person with a bachelor's degree is making $50,000 to $55,000 a year. Where are all these rich people that social media has somehow created this expectation? Like everybody's supposed to be rich. Everybody's supposed to have designer bags. Everyone's supposed to be living in these baby mansions and these high rises and driving Mercedes. And then, we live in Atlanta, which is a whole nother beast. I mean, the expectations in this city have gotten so crazy that people are just, if I was a single person in Atlanta, I'm telling you right now, you need to be dating somebody from Charlotte, North Carolina, Biloxi, Mississippi. Give me some Columbus, Texas, little towns ain't nobody heard of. You need to be finding somebody outside of this city who is not corrupted by all of this craziness that's going on in this city. I mean, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Everyone here just wants to be rich and famous. I think that without trust, relationships are dead in the water anyway. If I don't believe that partners, spouses, or in relationships, you should have passcodes to each other's phones and passwords to each other's accounts and logged into each other's social media and all of that. If you have to do all of that, you don't trust the person you're with to begin with. There's got to be a level of individual privacy. You're still a person in a relationship. A lot of people find that difficult. Like, I give that advice and people are like, well, because people have been cheated on, they're insecure, they have a lot of anxiety, PTSD from previous relationships. People will fall in, men and women, you'll fall in the trap of trying to appease that person by giving your passcode or giving the password because you feel like, I ain't got nothing to hide. So you keep trying to feed in to make them feel secure, to assure them, to validate them. I love you. See, I'm not doing anything. But what you have to understand about fear is that there's no limits. It doesn't matter what you do. It is that person's personal issue, personal feelings, their fears. You didn't cause it. It's not your responsibility to fix it. So instead of trying to appease them, which is never going to end because you can never do enough to reassure them because it's dealing with a point of pain, an unhealed issue in their life that comes from a previous relationship. It is your responsibility to lean in and say, what exactly is it that you're looking for? What exactly is it that you're thinking I may do or that you're trying to accuse me of potentially doing? And then, okay, and if I did that, what are you going to do? Ask the hard questions. Dig into the pain. Dig into the issue. Don't try to ignore the issues and the insecurities. And that's where therapy comes in. That's where help comes in. Because at the end of the day, when you get in a relationship, it doesn't mean that you stop being an individual. And for people who are insecure or people who have been cheated on, they're always looking for it. And guess what? If you go looking for stuff, eventually you will find things that could even be innocent, but you're going to misunderstand and misconstrue it because you see through your filter of expectation. Nothing's ever going to be enough. And if you are that person who's been cheated on and has insecurities, it's your responsibility to heal it. It's your responsibility to go and get help to heal that. If you're with a person who's doing everything they can to love you and be loyal, you can actually run people away with all those insecurities and distrust because it's tiring. At some point, that person's going to be like, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing anything. So what happens from a manifestation or spiritual perspective is people manifest their fears. Because you're afraid of it happening, you now pressure, push, and you push someone away. And then the very thing you're afraid of can end up happening, and that's not even who that person was or what they wanted to do. But it's a manifestation of the fear. Oh, it's real raggedy. He had the vacation sandals on back in the day. Remember those sandals? I remember this one. We go on vacation once a quarter, at least. There's been some years we go out of the country 6, 7 times. So depending on your finances, and what you can afford, I think that dates can be anything from picnics and ice cream dates and coffee dates. And my husband, when we first started dating, we were both coming out of divorces and really bad financial situations. Like, we would sit in the car and eat wings and burgers in the car and just laugh and talk, like that's how we fell in love. We didn't have huge budgets to go and date big and 5-star meals and all of that. So I think you can make dates as simple as they need to be, and have fun and stay engaged with each other. I think the pressures that are on modern relationships require you to be very intentional about your relationship and about your partner. If anything that you put on cruise control in your life or you ignore, I say whatever you don't honor, you will lose. And especially in marriages and you have kids, it's easy to lose that connection. It's easy to be so busy focusing on your career, money, the kids, everything else, that you can really lose your connection as partners, as soulmates, as lovers. You can lose that connection. So I think it takes a lot of intention. It takes a lot of planning to make sure that you stay connected. So if you're in a situation where you've been in an exclusive relationship and you're in love, but for some reason you start experiencing difficulties or feel like you need to take a break, if you still love each other and you want to be with that person in the future and you're really wanting it to work, I don't recommend either of you date people and open up that door, because it's going to complicate things very quickly. You have really great examples of this in our modern pop culture. You've got Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. They broke up for just a tiny, small window of time, and he got another woman pregnant. And then they're back together, right back together, but now dealing with an outside child in the relationship, and even then going into marriage, now having another child with another woman and all the complications that brings in because he went out and sleeping around doing whatever. So if you really want to be with somebody and you know this is your person, I would suggest that you actively continue to work on the relationship, continue to work on yourself. You heard me say, my husband and I have a couples counselor. We have our own individual therapists. We have our own individual coaches. We believe in help. We believe in accountability. People will say that time heals things. I don't believe that. I believe it's what you do with time that dictates where you're going to be. Time will pass anyway, but what dictates where you will be in the future is what you do with that time. And so I would love to see more coaching and therapy becoming a norm in our Black community. Couples getting help, people getting help. I can't tell you how many young people I meet who have never had a day of therapy in their life. And by the time you get into your mid-30s, your 40s, the accumulation of life's experiences, life's traumas, your childhood, everybody's got it. Everybody. It starts to accumulate to a point where now you've got issues. You've got things that you need to deal with. And everybody has it, men and women. And it's your responsibility to work on those things so that you can show up as part of a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is built on two healthy individuals. So if you're not good at communicating your feelings, you can't just say, I'm no good at communicating. I'm no good at talking about how I feel. You have to work on that, because that's not going to work in a relationship. You're not going to have a relationship, is what will happen. So if two people are really committed to being together, I suggest they do not date other people, that they get help and they work on the relationship. I think that a lot of the responsibility for getting help tends to fall on women. Women are the influencers in the relationship and the accountability when it comes to the spiritual and emotional stuff and getting mental health help and coaching, counseling, all of that. Women tend to lead that in relationships. And there's no reason I see that changing anytime in the future. So it's about her getting help for herself. Because the one thing I say, if you want to hold your partner accountable to work on themselves, you have to work on you. So you go get therapy and then say, now I require this of you too, because for this to work and for us to be healthy, we both need help. But you have to do it as well. You can't just be pointing at somebody. It's you need help. You're a mess. You're a wreck. Well, you're not perfect either. You need help too. I think that young couples tend to struggle about communicating their expectations, their desires, or when there's a problem, they can tend to, struggle to communicate what they want or what they need. I think it should be an open conversation. I think that you should develop a real openness around sex and talk about sex as much as you can in your relationship. One of the things my husband and I did when we were dating is we talked about, how many times you want to have sex a week? Like real talk. Like what is your drive like? How many times a week you want to do it? My husband's like 7, like some ridiculous number. And I'm just like, I'm more like 2, 3, at the most. And it's like, so he has a higher drive. And, but we talked about it, so that he could then say, okay, well, I would be okay with 3. I would be okay. We'll make that work every other day. That would be cool. That'd be fine. But that was a conversation. And then we also have to realize that in ages and seasons of life, things change, right? A young mother and wife could have children and her body changes, her hormones, she's going through changes, her drive changes, her amount of responsibility on her plate with managing a child and her job and her home and her relationship. That's a lot of responsibility. She's tired, she's distracted. Is sex at the top of her list and the top of her mind the way it was when she was hot and 25, 23 years old and single with no worries except for herself and just her man? It's like things change. And hormones change as well with women. I hit my late 30s, early 40s, and hormones started going crazy and perimenopausal, headed towards, menopause stuff. Women in their 30s and 40s are going through it right now and may not even know it. Don't have any sex drive. Libido completely falls off. And my husband, because we have such great communication, I didn't even realize it was happening. I just was like already struggling with hot sweat, hot flashes, and all this other changes and weight gain. And I'm miserable and trying to figure out what's going on with myself. But he's like, hello, we haven't had sex in 2 weeks. We haven't had sex in 3 weeks. What's going on? And he had to really be verbal about it because I wasn't really even aware that my libido was changing. And I had to get help. I had to get help to work on my hormones, but my partner was in there like, look, I didn't marry this beautiful woman to just sit here and look at you. Like, I married you because I want to screw you, right? That is why I married you. And he's just blunt, just real, like, I want you. And so we have to get comfortable with having those conversations, because obviously you don't get married you don't want your spouse to be unhappy. You don't want your partner to be unhappy. So then it fell on me to say, you got to figure this stuff out, Rebecca. Like this isn't okay. And I had to really work on it. I had to seek solutions and get help to find balance with it. So I think that, and men too, testosterone levels fall off as you get older. You gotta be looking to do whatever you can, right? But have those conversations and have those conversations from a place of love and grace and understanding and patience versus waiting until you're very angry and frustrated to have those conversations. And then because of the emotions or the level of anger or what the emotion that's getting expressed, somebody can't really hear you. Especially the world we now live in, everyone is so busy. And I think like couples, especially the person who's wanting sex more, if the person they're with tries to schedule sex, it makes it feel for them like they're not a priority. Why do you have to schedule this in order for us to do this? It should be something that we're organically, spontaneously doing. My advice to the partner who's trying to fulfill the partner's needs, who has the higher drive, is to schedule it, but don't let them know. Schedule it, but it's not something you communicate that is scheduled. You just surprise them and do it and initiate it, but don't let them know it was on your schedule to do that, because that takes away the spontaneity for your partner. But while still holding yourself accountable to meet your partner's needs and make them happy. I would say that if you are single or in a relationship in 2022, I think that it's important to recognize that you are responsible for your own well-being. It's estimated that 90% of people are not emotionally self-aware. What that means is that 90% of people do not think about what they think about. They do not do any self-reflection into why they feel the way they feel or why they think the way they think, which means that in relationships, you could be showing up and being triggered by different things, or you have issues that you're not addressing, personal issues you're not addressing that are then sabotaging your relationships or your potential relationships. I think that every single person is responsible for growing in personal development, growing in emotional awareness, personal self-awareness. That one thing will help you to better navigate relationships and potentially help you to have a healthy relationship.